G'day there, ladies and gents of the internet. I am the Braveheart Aussie and welcome to a journey in world building. Today we're going to be finishing off our deep dive into the setting of Dance's Leap, that floating AI-controlled megatropolis drifting through the orange and purple clouds of the Venusian analog planet of Altura in the northern part of the dark Diaspora. As is customary, today we'll be examining the local terrors associated with the setting. As demonstrated in our economic and social deep dive in the last world building episode, the social structure of the planet meets all the basic physical and resource needs of 500,000 people that call the city home. As a result of the universal access to food, shelter, medical care and education, both of a rudimentary and a tertiary level, residents of the city have the highest level of economic prosperity of any people in the diaspora, and is even 50% higher than that of Lost Earth before the War of Cataclysm. However, economic prosperity alone is just one of a number of factors that contribute to overall personal and social well-being. In our world, this is reflected in indicators like the Human Development Index, as well as the concept of well-being budgets implemented by governments around the world, which look at not only economic factors and resource access, but also issues of happiness, stress, and general well-being and welfare in order to judge the success or failure of government. It also reflects in the issue of distribution of wealth and activity, even in areas where individuals can secure full access to all basic necessary resources, but are contextually poor compared to others who have more privileged status, even if that is because of a meritocratic element. Well-being factors include things such as freedom of choice and of gathering, of collective bargaining, and of input into the governance of society in which an individual exists, including the ability to explore activities and personal endeavours that may not have an economic or productive element to them, but do bring important creative, spiritual, or leisure benefits. This was alluded to in the last episode where I commented about the fact that creative personality types seem to particularly struggle in the highly regimented, uniform, and homogeneous nature of society within Dance's Leap, and that this lack of acknowledgement of the value of creative outlets and of the role of non-conformist individuals in pushing the boundaries of society creates something of an undercurrent of social tension in the city that bubbles along in spite of the comparative economic largesse associated with the world. So the question becomes what happens when this tension becomes more than just an undercurrent and is realised accordingly. The most common outlet that occurs within Dance's Leap is that of protests. Such demonstrations are regarded as a necessary evil on the part of unity to ensure non-violent demonstrations of social disagreement are provided a structured outlet. Despite the permissibility of this particular response to social pressures, such protests are highly regulated with permission required, the number of protesters capped, the location of the protest controlled through the use of neurocybernetic geocaching, and the complete lack of cross-city awareness of the protests. This approach to isolating or quarantining social unrest is critical to the capacity of unity to maintain social stability in the face of human-related elements of uncertainty. In most cases, this approach is sufficient for unity to maintain a semblance of control and stability within society, and is often complemented with minor changes or other temporary improvements in conditions to alleviate any of the pressures in society. In many cases, these changes are time limited, with unity quietly withdrawing certain rights or changes 6 to 12 months after they are granted, or limiting their implementation only to certain groups or parts of the city. A more extreme response to these social pressures by individuals and people within the city are more violent protests ranging from riots all the way up to acts of terrorism. We explored a little bit of this in the most recent law video in which a person was subject to violence as a result of a coordinated terrorist attack by two individuals at one of the many VAC rail stations that service the city metropolis. Such violence is typically put down rapidly, whether it's in the form of riots or destructive protests, and is suppressed through the use of mobility restrictions and the deployment of mob cons, particularly those designed to impose their power and authority over individual humans. It should be noted that Unity Entity 1 exists as the physical embodiment of the AI itself, so the capacity of the AI to fully control the environment in which people are living provides it with a unique set of social control options. Reducing oxygen content of the air, increasing or decreasing temperatures outside of optimal ranges, as well as restricting water and food availability, all provide environmental responses that the AI can implement in response to social unrest. This results in terrorist acts actually becoming more and more popular amongst dissidents within society, noting that many so-called insurgents are identified in court well before they have the ability to implement any adverse act. This reflects the fact that the observation and monitoring within the city by the AI is almost universal, and so capacity of individuals to surreptitiously undertake actions involving widespread destruction are highly limited. Nevertheless, at the time of the Dark Diaspora, there is at least one major terrorism event that takes a group of lives of residents or inflicts significant destruction each and every year. Such acts result in significant and often violent suppression by mobcons, as well as drastic increases in security monitoring and resource restrictions. While some of the population view these instances from the perspective of a rebel insurgency, the reality is the majority of the population is so entrenched in their alignment with the structure and benefits associated with unity and its social structures that they reject the arguments of those who they deem to be violent interlopers. Interestingly, there is potential that some of the violence that has occurred has been actually funded and facilitated by the Tarvan Covenant. This reflects the overt rejection opposition of the Covenant to any AI, let alone that of Unity, which it sees as an abomination, and the repeating of mistakes that led to the War of Cataclysm on Earth and to the destruction of the planet because of humanity's lack of capacity to deflect the asteroid linked to the Madagascar impact. Smuggled in religious and spiritual text, coupled with a highly restrictive nature of the social environment, helps to radicalize certain individuals, particularly those that choke on the authoritative and restrictive nature of society. However, socially and within the context of the tensions, one of the most unique outlets is known as the Leap. Ultimately, this is a form of state-sanctioned suicide in which a person is able to remove themselves from society and end their life by casting themselves off the side of the city and down into the noxious and highly oppressive environment of Altura. The leap lacks any sense of grandeur or ceremony, instead simply requires an individual to make their way down to the outer concourse of the city that rings the entire megatropolis and which provides people with a view of the outside clouds of purple and orange. Here, a series of airlocks are in place in which individuals can enter and, if they so choose, exit through the outer airlock and hurl themselves into the clouds and down onto the planet. While generally accepted by people on Altura City as entirely appropriate for people who are unable to exist within society, and is viewed in some respects as not dissimilar to the concepts of voluntary assisted dying or euthanasia, it obviously carries a significant negative stigma to the wider diaspora, hence the derogatory name of the city of Dancer's Leap. This is because, from the perspective of those outside of the city, such suicides are seen as the direct result of the authoritarian and repressive nature of the AI regime. While the character and attributes of people who take the leap are varied and often include elderly individuals, people who are suffering from grief, as well as those with significant emotional or mental disturbances and volatility, one of the largest groups are those with high aptitudes in creativity. This cohort is particularly repressed in Unity, and because of that tends to experience higher rates of depression, anxiety, and suicidal tendencies, as their intrinsic creative capabilities are left to squander, and any outlets that they may exhibit at a young age are quickly quashed. This is where the term Dancer's Leap comes from, as dancing is particularly frowned upon by Unity as an excessive and unproductive physical creative display which has a tendency to inspire others to contrarian and socially unacceptable thoughts and emotions. So basically think Footloose, but with an AI and in a totalitarian state in which everybody has everything they need, but nothing of what they want. The reality is that less than 1,000 people per year take the leap, but this is not an insignificant share of the total population, and outside of natural causes of people aging out of their lives, is one of the leading causes of death on the planet. There is no indication to suggest that Unity itself actively encourages or even enforces people to take the leap. However, it is argued by opponents within the wider diaspora that the AI has total and complete oppressive influence over an individual across the course of their development, and therefore they've had the effect of normalizing and making acceptable the leap as a response to an individual's overwhelming sense of loss, anxiety, depression, or other type of emotional or psychological vulnerability. And it is this particular act which has garnered Unity the greatest scorn and disfavour amongst the powers and populations of the diaspora, as it's symbolic of the rejection of human nature to absolute oppression, even in the face of economic abundance, and is pointed to by even the most despotic human-run enterprises across the diaspora as the inevitable outcome of the takeover of AI. And that is where we're going to be leaving our deep dive into the setting of Dancer's Leap. I hope you've enjoyed this one. I've tried to touch on a bunch of different themes, including AI, repressive societies, including those with significant economic abundance, the diversity of factors that contribute to human development above and beyond simply meeting people's basic needs, and the importance of providing individuals with creative and non-economic outlets in order to ensure the holistic development and welfare of individuals and society. And the fact that all of this tyrannical restraint and pressure on the people of Unity Entity 1 is accepted by the wider powers of the northern part of the Dark Diaspora shows the sway in which economic productivity can play on the acceptance of some in the denial of rights to others. We have one more lore episode to go in this series, after which we're going to be taking a break from the setting deep dives for a couple of weeks to do another random setting episode, which I had so much fun doing last time, and I'm really looking forward to getting the dice rolling again. After that, we're going to be doing another threat, and this time we'll be doing something of a little bit more eldritch nature, maybe tapping into a concept that we explored a little bit or hinted at a little bit in a previous lore episode in Fool's Edge as part of the Akaro loop. After which we'll then be jumping into another setting for which I'll be putting up a poll for in about a week's time. I'm extremely excited by the fact that we are now, at the time of this video, rapidly approaching 80,000 subscribers, meaning that our journey to 100,000 subscribers in the next 6 months is well and truly on track. So thank you to everybody who has subscribed to the channel, and for those who are watching the videos. If you are enjoying this content, make sure you do leave a like, as well as leave a comment in the section below, because I really appreciate the interactions and I love being able to respond to them and discuss accordingly. You can also follow me on my Discord channel, which has now been revamped, so you can join us over there, where we'll chat about different aspects of the project and the world building process in general. But that is it for today. Thank you so much, hope you all have a wonderful day, and may the journey continue.